Well, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5 years ago today was one of our country's darkest days. It's one of the few dates in history where most people can remember exactly where they were. On January 6th, I was chair of the House Administration Committee and therefore was one of the tellers during the counting of electoral votes for the 2020 election. I stood on the House rostrum with then Vice President Mike Pence and then Speaker Nancy Pelosi as we formalized the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We'd heard plenty of talk in the days before that many Republican members planned to object to the certification of several states at the behest of President Donald Trump. What we didn't expect was for Trump to summon an armed mob to march to the Capitol, urging his supporters to, quote, fight like hell. He had been feeding them lies for weeks, fomenting their rage, and at 2:11, all hell broke loose. A man had ripped away a police officer's riot shield and broke a window on the Senate side, becoming the first insurrectionist to breach the Capitol, and then they began to pour in. Vice President Pence was evacuated by the Secret Service, avoiding by mere seconds the insurrectionists, many of whom were calling for his execution. On the House side, Speaker Pelosi was pulled out by her detail as members of the mob roamed the halls of Congress yelling menacingly, "Where's Nancy?" Since it was a goal of the mob and Trump, it's a miracle that the Vice President and no member of Congress were hurt or killed that day. However, the same cannot be said for the brave law enforcement officers that defended our Capitol on January 6th, and my thoughts are with them and their families, as the pain of this day surely has not faded for them in the past 5 years. In the months that followed, the House voted to form an independent 9/11 Commission-style group that would investigate these attacks, and that passed with bipartisan support in the House, only to be blocked by Senate Republicans. Speaker Pelosi decided then that the House would form its own select committee, and that resolution passed 222 to 190. I sit here today with several of my January 6th committee colleagues, including now Senator Adam Schiff, who had to step away, will be back in a minute, former Representative Elaine Lurie of Virginia, and former Representative Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. Our work together was an intense, bipartisan, and collaborative effort. We were focused on getting the truth and then revealing the truth, and I think both our hearings and the final report succeeded in doing that. It was important to us that the information we obtained was accessible to every American, not some dense document filled with D.C. jargon, but a report where people could easily understand the magnitude of the January 6th attacks and what led up to that day. January 6th each year serves as a somber reminder of how fragile American democracy is and how close we came to losing it. This year is especially grim, as it is the first year in which insurrectionists are walking free thanks to President Trump's blanket pardons. The president, who purports to be, quote, pro-police and tough on crime, sent over 1,000 criminals free, many guilty of assaulting law enforcement officers, and it's absolutely shameful that President Trump chose on his very first day in office to turn his back on our men and women in uniform and excuse the violence that he incited and to send these criminals back out into the country to menace and hurt innocent Americans. Let me just have this one last thought. No matter how much President Trump and his allies seek to rewrite the past and cover up this stain on our history, the American people remember. With over 1 million documents and hundreds of hours of footage from our investigation, it is one of the most documented crimes in American history. And there's no doubt about who was the most culpable for that terrible tragedy. January 6th was about Trump illegally attempting to seize power And as president, he continues to aggressively exercise power to the detriment of the American people. For example, his use of tariffs, which is hurting the pocketbooks of Americans all across the country. I think it's important that we see January 6th for what it is, an illegal effort to overturn the Constitution so Trump could have unlimited power.
Wait just a second. We have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to provide the news and the information that you trust.
So thank you from everybody here at PBS News.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.